In 475 AD, the boy Romulus Augustulus was made emperor of the Western Roman Empire. His actual name was Flavius Romulus Augustus, but his contemporaries mockingly called him Augustulus, meaning Little Augustus, as a way of pointing out his tender age and his lack of stature as a ruler. Let us also note that he was named Romulus, just like the first king and legendary founder of Rome. It is quite a thing that the last and first rulers of the Roman state, whose monumental history spanned over 1,000 years, should share the same name. Augustulus' family came from the upper echelon of Roman society. Augustulus' paternal grandfather was a nobleman named Tatulus, and his father, Flavius Orestes, was a high-ranking officer in the army. In the late summer of 475 AD, the previous emperor, Julius Nepos, had named Flavius Orestes as his Magister Militum, meaning that Flavius Orestes became the commander-in-chief of the Western Roman Empire. Julius Nepos had hoped that Flavius Orestes would reclaim the provinces of Gaul, which had been lost to the Visigoths and to other Germanic tribesmen. Flavius Orestes, however, repaid the emperor's trust with betrayal. He turned the emperor's army against the emperor himself and marched on the city of Ravenna, which was the then capital of the Western Roman Empire. Julius Nepos stood little to no chance of resisting him and was forced to flee from Italy to the east. There he continued to claim the title of Western Roman Emperor with the support of the emperor in the east. In the October of 475 AD, Romulus Augustulus was proclaimed emperor of the Western Roman Empire by his father. But Augustulus was only a teenager with no real authority of his own, and Flavius Orestes was the empire's actual decision-maker, and the Roman Empire was no longer what it once had been. The eastern half of the empire had been separated from the west in 395. Britannia had been abandoned, and Gaul, Iberia and North Africa had been invaded by Germanic tribesmen, which means that the Italian peninsula was all that remained of the once mighty Rome. The reign of Romulus Augustulus was off to a terrible start. Julius Nepos, the previous emperor, had survived Flavius Orestes' coup against him, which seriously undermined the legitimacy of Augustulus' rule, especially since Julius Nepos was supported by the Eastern Emperor. The Eastern Emperor loomed large as an existential threat to Augustulus' rule, as did also the bloodthirsty Vandals in North Africa. But the real enemy, as it turns out, was already within the Western Empire. In order to secure his takeover over the Roman state, Flavius Orestes had to rely on the foederati, which mainly were Germanic warriors in service of the Roman Empire. Promises were made, and after Flavius Orestes had successfully seized power from Julius Nepos and installed his son Augustulus as emperor, the warriors from the foederati expected to be rewarded with lands in Italy. They were disappointed, to say the least, when Flavius Orestes denied them these lands, in spite of their vital role in installing his son as emperor. They rebelled against Augustulus and his father in the August of 476 AD. Their leader was Odoacer, a Germanic warrior of the Sciri tribe. Flavius Orestes met Odoacer on the open field at a battle near today's Piacenza in northern Italy, but was soundly defeated. He fled to the city of Padua, which soon fell to Odoacer's forces. Flavius Orestes was executed, and Odoacer soon marched on the then Roman capital of Ravenna, where Augustulus resided. Ravenna fell with almost no resistance, and the fate of young Augustulus lay now in the hands of brutish men who were skillful in ways of torture and destruction. Odoacer forced Augustulus to abdicate on September 4th, 476 AD. So ended one of the mightiest empires of all of human history. Augustulus himself, however, was spared by Odoacer. Odoacer was well aware that Augustulus had been a mere figurehead as a ruler, and that Flavius Orestes had been the real power behind the throne. Augustulus, furthermore, lacked legitimacy as a ruler and wasn't recognized by the emperor of the East. Odoacer could therefore afford to spare the young man's life. Augustulus was exiled to the castle of Lucullus in Campania, near today's Napoli. He was allowed to live out a peaceful and comfortable existence, and was apparently given an extremely generous pension by the victorious Odoacer. Not much else is known about the final fate of Rome's last emperor. It is not at all unlikely that Augustulus survived throughout Odoacer's entire kingship, and that he lived well into the reign of Theodoric the Great. It has also been speculated that Augustulus turned to God and found peace in the arms of our Lord. Romulus Augustulus, sadly, was not in a position to accomplish much of note during his barely 1 year as an emperor. He has gone down in history as the tragic face of the demise of the Roman Empire, but we may hope that he found peace and purpose in a Christian calling.